What's up, Internet? Welcome to Once Over. I'm Kaylee, and today we're going to be giving the once over to Decayed Decades, the new Exhumed documentary. There will be spoilers.
Give it a good once over.
Giving us the once over.
Giving him the once over.
Give me a once over.
Down to give us the once over.
For a routine once over.
Once over.
Oh, just once over lightly.
Decayed Decades is a 3-part ROTumentary all about the band Exhumed. They are a death metal or gore grind or gore metal grind, death grind. I fucking suck at metal subgenres, just ignore me. They're a death metal band, that's what I'm gonna fucking call them. About the death metal band Exhumed. This is out now on YouTube, so you can absolutely go check it out there. They actually did a premiere party for it, so you can see a little bit of them doing a watch party with it and them talking about it and a little additional commentary. And you can also pre-order the DVD for all of you media hoarders out there. And they made this in celebration of the 25th anniversary of the wonderful album Gore Metal, which is probably my favorite of their albums. I know there's a lot of controversy about that, but I'll let everybody have their own opinions. Gore Metal was, of course, the band's debut studio album, and this documentary chronicles their trials, excessive lineup changes from their demo period of time to that album into now. The director of this documentary is Avanish Matur, and he created it along with interviewer Andrew Corson, editor Frank Wang, and Jesse Davis was used hugely in collecting all the archival footage. Before I talk about my thoughts about this documentary, I am going to let you know right off the bat that I am extremely biased. I got engaged at an Exhumed show.
Hurts.
And then several years later, I actually was divorced on the day of another Exhumed show. I am a huge fan of Exhumed. I think that they're absolutely wonderful. I have done entirely too much stuff relating to my love of them in my life, you know, including that engagement and maybe the divorce. Those were wonderful moments in my life. Actually, check this out. That's the day that I got engaged. Yeah. We're covered in fake blood. But that being said, I will admit that this is not a documentary, a music documentary in the same way that like Anvil is, where you don't necessarily have to be a fan of the band in order to love the documentary, because there's a huge story arc in that, you know, you really feel for these people. I think that Decayed Decades really relies on you being an Exhumed fan. For me personally, it's not my favorite way to do a documentary. I would like to be able to go into any music documentary, even if it's about a genre that I don't particularly like, and still be able to really enjoy it. So I will be honest, despite the fact that I am extremely biased and I love Exhumed so much, there were some misfires here for me. We're gonna go through everything that I loved and hated about this documentary and talk through a little bit about what it goes through. Also, don't forget, Exhumed is on tour right now, so check out if they are in a city near you. You should absolutely go see it. They are absolutely incredible live. The documentary is split into 3 parts, so the first part focuses on the band's history. Guitarist Matt Harvey is synonymous with Exhumed, and he has actually been the only constant and consistent Exhumed member, so we get to learn the most about him. He started liking metal when he was 11 years old, and in middle school he met Cole Jones, which is when they started playing music together. This is where I start to have kind of those sorts of little issues with this documentary, because I will be honest that it is extremely hard to follow the lineup changes. So through interviews, Matt and Cole mentioned Rocky, Peter, and Jake. And I know that Jake was in the band from 91 to 93, but I have no idea who Rocky and Peter are. I think that maybe they were on the demos. It was the first iteration of Exhumed. I really never felt like I was clear on that. There's a ton of information that gets fed to you. And so for me, I just didn't understand. Were they jam buddies? Was this just like the pre-high school, middle school, this is how I'm starting to learn about music? Or are these people who are actually in Exhumed? And not only is the lineup hard to follow, but there have been like 10 Matts in this band. So, you know, it's a lot for me to remember. Okay, I think there's like 3. Matt Harvey, Matt Widener, Matt Slime.
Sorry, not you, Homer.
Why not? But you let in Homer Glumplet.
It says no Homers. We're allowed to have one.
Matt Connell? There are several instances where somebody says something along the lines of, so that was the first version of the band.
So that was kind of like the early nucleus of like the very first version of the band.
But I, again, have no idea what they are referencing. I get that this is pandering to metalheads and more specifically Exhumed fans, but make it accessible. I think that a small fix for this could have just been putting the years that each person was in the band when they have like the little title card at the bottom of the screen when they're doing interviews. Sometimes that happens and sometimes it doesn't. I also would really, really love a family tree. That would help me very much. I'm not gonna make one because I don't know. I don't know. Something that I do really love about this section of the film, though, is that we get to see all these old flyers from back when Exhumed was performing in the 90s. I was super stoked on seeing these. I love seeing little old relics and blasts from the past like those. The thing that was the most shocking to me about them was that all the flyers had the years on them. I have like 1,000 concert posters and flyers from all the shows that I've been to. They never say the year. They never say the year. That's like archiving and history 101. Why do bands not do that? Especially local bands. Local bands, put your year on your flyer. It is happening on March 18th, 2024. Like, say the fucking day. Why? Why are you making me forget? I'm gonna keep this forever because I'm a fucking hoarder. I don't know. I like stuff. There's schmutz on my face. Whatever. I give up. So to try to follow the plot or the history, Matt and Cole explain that they are working with Jake and Daryl in order to put out sickening demos.
I go, dude, here's what we do. It's Pepto-Bismol colored vinyl because it's so fucking sick. And it went over.
Ross Sewage joins the band in 1994, but I believe on vocals only at this point. He does later play bass, but I think for now he is just doing the vocals. Fun little fact about me, I'm a fucking idiot. I didn't get the pun of his name until like 5 years ago. It's Raw Sewage. Ross Sewage. Raw Sewage. Yeah, alright, whatever. Maybe that's not even a fucking thing. I don't know. That's how I say it in my head now. I'm smart. Ross brings some direction to the band as they have previously been doing the pay-to-play models. And I really have a gripe about this as well because the film never explains what pay-to-play is. I know what pay-to-play is in my city, but I believe that different cities do it a little bit differently. Most obviously, pay-to-play is when local bands especially, or smaller bands, sometimes bigger bands, have to literally pay a venue in order to play there. However, I know that there are some other formats of this. For example, there's a couple of venues in Rochester where the local bands have to sell a certain number of tickets in order to be able to be featured more heavily on the bill or to be able to play at all. I would really like it if concepts like this were explained because again, I think that's interesting to the fans. I suspect that most metalheads who go to a lot of shows probably are familiar with this terminology, but it's possible that some people aren't. It's also confusing for me at this time because we are talking about Ross, who is a bass player, being in the band, but at the same time Matt Widener is also in the band and he is also a bass player. Again, I think that Ross is just doing vocals at this time. I know that they didn't have 2 bass players at once, so really I just need that family tree to be a thing, please. Now is when we start getting into the huge crazy lineup changes. Jake leaves the band, Daryl just wants to bang chicks and drink, so he quits. Matt Widener wanted to be a Carcass clone, which they were kind of diverting from, so he is done, and this results in Leon Del Muerte joining the band in 1996. I'm gonna be honest with you, I had to check Metal Archives for all of this information because I did not feel like I got it from the documentary. And if I have to go and look something up, a little bit of a red flag for me. Again, I know that maybe that's not exactly the point of this documentary, but it was a challenge for me. Regardless of that, I really loved getting to see all of the absolutely amazing interviews. We get interviews with almost all of the previous band members. And in addition to that, people like Ian Christie, we get interviews from the founder of Relapse. We really do get to experience a lot of very interesting things. Maybe it's just a confusing history. Maybe I'm just stupid. I don't know. I don't know. So Leon joins the band. He is playing guitar at the time. Later, he plays bass. And he explains Matt and Cole were very unified and Ross was kind of the contrarian. Leon was just sort of trying to get everybody to get along, and as a result of that, he was the one who got kicked out of the band. He then gets replaced by Mike Beams. I just want to talk for a quick moment about how fucking amazing Mike Beams is. He was very much the professional in the band.
He came in and he had like, actual equipment, like professional equipment. And we're like, wow. And he started asking us questions like, how many times does this riff go? And we're like, I don't know, till it's done.
I was kind of like always in the timing, you know, I was kind of like, hey, let's stop. Someone's out of tune, you know.
Ross's whole business model was kind of tape trading the hell out of all their shit. I think that was a great business model at the time. I was tape trading out of the back of Metal Maniacs around this time period. It was a huge way to pass music around because obviously this was all pre-internet. But just after they get a deal with Relapse, Matt Harvey ends up firing Ross. And that is the end of part 1 of this 3-part documentary, which honestly is just setting up for the love affair between Matt and Ross as the documentary continues. A necromance, as Ross would call it. As for the second part of the movie, all the band members agree that they were behaving like whiny, annoying teenagers. But I think that they're all a little bit too nice while they're describing that they're being jerks. I would have liked the nitty-gritty stuff. Perhaps that would have given me a little bit more stakes in this documentary, and it might have made it feel a little bit more like Anvil. I want there to be likable characters, but I also want there to be a reason that I'm rooting for these characters. And I'm absolutely rooting for Exhumed, but that's because I love Exhumed. If I didn't know who Exhumed was, I don't think that I would care at all about these people. They move on to creating Slaughter Cult, which of course Mieszko from Nazem works on, which is amazing and super exciting. Beams actually does all of his low vocals while recording. He's riding on a bicycle because he finds that that can help him hit a lower register, which I think is really cool. I did really enjoy learning kind of the behind the scenes stuff like that, and I did not know that before. I think that's genius. He talks a little bit also about how Mieszko is able to, I guess, like gate that noise of the bicycle as he's doing the post-production. There are some small issues within this section as well, including things like the word bass being spelled wrong. Bass. So now that Ross is out of the band, they need a new gimmicks person. Ross was kind of like the goofy dude who was doing all the fun shit and being goofy on stage. And so they get Bud Burke, who luckily can vomit on command. With Ross no longer in the band, he is now a part of Impaled, and Matt actually does admit to some rivalry between the two bands and that he really wanted to do better than Impaled's album Mondo Medicale. Ross also admits to being kind of a petty little bitch during this time period.
The first 7-inch cover from Impaled, like, it featured like a dead poser, and he was wearing an Exhumed shirt because I thought that was funny.
Now, another big lineup change, because that's pretty much all this movie is just telling me the lineup of Exhumed at different periods of time that I don't really understand. Cole leaves the band to get a job. Bud leaves the band. Beams leaves the band. Now they get a whole bunch of random drummers, including, I think, Matt Connell. Again, all the Matts. And Matt Harvey decides that this probably means that they should take a hiatus because of all these lineup changes. Like I mentioned, I think it's super awesome that Exhumed has put this out on their YouTube page. You can check it out at Exhumed Official on YouTube. I will link it down below. One of the cool things that they did because of that is that they did a live stream of the premiere where they actually came and hung out in between each one of these segments. In part 3, they admitted to their aging by all showing up with their glasses on. I like that these old men now need to wear their readers. Cute. Every metalhead dude that I know right now wears readers, so I get it. We're getting older. We're getting older. It's only because we did so much cool shit when we were younger. Matt Harvey also explains in one of these segments where they are talking about the movie that it was intentional that they excluded the tour stories. I think this is a little bit of a misstep as well. I think that it could have been really interesting. I think people like hearing those sorts of stories. They do talk about them a little bit. There's a story about Matt having to go to jail in Mexico because of some bullet belts. Luckily, Dr. Filthy, who we'll talk about in a moment, did not have to go to jail.
They pull me aside and they pull out the bullet belt. I was like, oh, fuck.
They looked at my stuff too. I had a severed head and bloody hospital scrubs and stuff, but they just thought I was an idiot and let me go.
How that didn't end him up in jail, I don't fucking know, but whatever. It's fine. He was fine. Only Matt went to jail. Anyway, tell more tour stories. Those are exciting, and they have stakes. I wanted to know, are they going to make it to the show? Is Matt going to get out of jail before the show starts?
It gets pedantic.
So now we're ready for part 3. It's the comeback, baby. Woo!
Like, LOL, whatever.
So now we have members. Matt Harvey, obviously. Wes, Leon, and Danny. Mike Hamilton also joins on drum. And we also get Dr. Filthy, my favorite. Dylan, you are wonderful. You're absolutely wonderful. Dr. Filthy is their mascot. He is so awesome. I love Dr. Filthy.
You go to see a band live, the music's great, but it's a performance, it's theater. Holding a running chainsaw adds a lot of charisma. I should take chainsaws to like job interviews.
Dylan actually got the job of being Dr. Filthy because Matt had seen him perform on stage with Macabre as like the Zodiac Killer, and it was clear that Dylan was having so much fun with it that he thought they would be perfect for Macabre. Was it Matt that saw that, or was it Ross? Look at this. I literally just watched this. So many things happen. I don't, there's too many humans. You guys must have been confused making this. I feel bad. Great job with the editing and the archival footage, because that is a lot of things to keep track of. So filmmakers, wonderful job on that. Yeah, I know I'm criticizing it, but it's amazing. We go through some even more lineup changes. Wes is out now because he's an ass and he is drinking, and then Bud is back, and then Matt Slime joins the band, but then he leaves in order to do tattoos. Really, this movie is all about the bromance between Matt and Ross. They rekindle their love of each other in the end, and that leads us into Exhumed touring now, which is awesome. Oh, I do want to mention one other thing that I really would have liked if we had talked about more, because I know nothing about this. Apparently, Exhumed did an Eric Andre show appearance. I should have looked that up before I started filming this. Why do you mention that and then not talk about it anymore? That seemed like a really interesting part of the history of this band. Also, I don't even think that my engagement is the only time that they have been performing while somebody got engaged, like where it was like part of the engagement. That's a huge thing too. I mean, I know that's probably a bigger deal to the people who get engaged. It's also a really cool thing that a death metal band is involved in, right? I don't know. At the end of the day, I had a super fun time watching this documentary, even though it didn't necessarily give me all of the things that I wanted it to give me. As long as you go into this one knowing that this is just for the fans, it is about the recording of the albums, it is about the history of the band, then you are going to absolutely love it. If you are looking for something a little bit more in-depth or a little bit grittier even, this might leave you feeling like you want a little bit more. Oh my god, I'm such a fucking asshole. I didn't even talk about all the Sebastian parts. Sebastian joins the band. Duh. Sebastian is lovely. He's extremely, extremely talented, and it is very clear that his joining the band kind of helps mend the gaps that had existed previously between Matt and Ross. He is clearly an amazing fit, not only musically, but also personality-wise. He is substantially younger than everybody else, but it seems to work extremely well, and I think he's totally awesome. I'm so sorry that I forgot you, Sebastian. I'm not an asshole. I probably forgot somebody else. Oh my god, there's so many humans! No more lineup changes, guys. It's exhausting. I'm exhausted for you. So with all that being said, I would give this ROTumentary, this neck romance, I would give it a solid 4.5 out of 7 thumbs up. I struggle to give it a little bit more only because I think that you have to be an Exhumed fan in order to enjoy it. I think that if you are an Exhumed fan, I would probably give this a 6 out of 7 thumbs up, even though it was a little bit hard to follow at times because there were so many different things happening. I still learned a ton. I still really enjoyed getting to see all of the awesome interviews, and it ruled. I also do just want to take a moment to say that I know that Ben Mars, who was the bass player on some of the original Exhumed demos, actually just recently passed away. That is an absolute tragedy, and my heart goes out to everybody who has been impacted by that. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I can't wait for the next one.